Well, hello. It is so much colder this week. Really, so much colder. Last week it was very mild and it was a little bit like living within a grey cloud. And this week it is bright and sunny and wonderful, but very cold. So, um, on this kind of morning, I am much slower. So I now have my coffee and I'm going to go down to the studio. And I thought that you might like to come along and I'll give you a studio tour because a few things have changed since the last tour. Through the house. Goodness, it's quite difficult with a selfie stick. Anyway, I'm well wrapped up today, as you can see. And, oh, here's the dogs coming. So Teasel has to be in his winter turtle suit now. Now you might think that this is because he gets cold, which he might get cold, but actually it's because as soon as all of the leaves fall off the hedges, he can get through them. He can suddenly see gaps. He squishes himself through and he goes and bothers all of the horses next door. Anyway, I'm going to just switch this camera around so that you can see the wonderful views, including Teasel in his turtle suit. But look how wonderful this is. It's just all frosts and frost on frost on frost, which is my very favourite. But it does mean that I need to really wrap up warmly. So I have about 6 layers on. Okay. Open the gate so we can go through. Might try and leave the dogs so that they don't bark while I'm recording. Bye bye. Well, as you can see, that leaving them up there for the barking is probably a really good idea. Here we are, coming down to the workshop. I mean, doesn't it just look glorious, doesn't it? In this sunshine with the blue skies, absolutely beautiful. Well, it's much toastier in here, so I can take off some of these layers. My husband, who is amazing, really lucked out, choice of husband. He's a GP and he tends to start work around about 8 o'clock so that he can get sort of like some of the admin done before he starts seeing patients at 9. So before that, before he leaves here, he comes down in this kind of weather and he puts the studio stove on. And that means that by the time I get down here at 9, it's lovely and toasty. So I can take off some of these millions of layers. I'm going to take my wee bird off. Microphone. Oh, you can see how toasty it must be. There we go. Pop that back there. My bird on. Okay. Welcome to my studio. And if you haven't been here before, my name is Jane Lindsay and I run a business called Snapdragon Life, an online creativity club called the Studio Club, and I'm based right in the middle of Scotland, about 5 minutes from Loch Lomond. And every Friday I come here and I do a little film. Sometimes it's about creativity, sometimes it's about the natural world, sometimes it's just about a kind of artistic life. So this is obviously one of the artistic life ones, and I really hope that you're enjoying it. So I thought that it would be nice to just tell you a bit about how the studio changes according to the season. So at this time of year, we do not have any water down here. 2 years ago, we had a big freeze, a bit like the one that we have now, and there had been some plumbing done and it didn't survive the frost, and all of the floor down here got completely soaked. And it's a wooden floor, it's a reclaimed wooden floor, but by the time we got here in the morning, it was like this, you know, sort of like all of the wood was bent, and it took maybe 3 months for it to completely dry out, and then we had to have part of the floor replaced. You did that as well, but we didn't want to have that again because it meant that I was several months with a big gap in the floor. So as soon as frost is forecast, all of the water down in the workshop, down in the studio here, gets cut off. And that means that during the winter, I don't tend to do an awful lot of things that need water. So I don't do much natural dyeing, I don't do much bundle dyeing. And instead, my thoughts turn to sewing. So what I've been doing this week is putting together lots of projects which are kind of more on the stitching side. So you see my desk as I left it last night, and this is because I was making a video about how to make these little patchwork star decorations. Now they could be Christmas decorations, or little lavender bags, they could be sort of like pin cushions that you take with you, or gift tags, or whatever. So I was making a video about that, and this video is part of the Studio Club, but it's also my kind of charity workshop that I'm doing this year. I do one a year, and it means that something from the Studio Club gets sold more widely, and it gets sold as a PDF and a recording of a video and all of the templates. And it means that people anywhere in the world could buy it, and that 100% of the sales go direct to charity. Now, I'm going to put all of the details underneath here. If you fancy making yourself a patchwork star out of fabric scraps and little things like buttons, or if you have them, jingle bells. It's good, really good, be nice on a door, wouldn't it? It would jingle as you go through. All of the details are underneath here, and it costs £10 for the entire workshop. And it's easily something that you can probably make from the things that you already have. But some people don't have anything because they don't live really minimally, or they have never done any sewing and things. So for those people, I'm putting together little packs of things. And these have the templates that you need in it. They have 5 squares of Liberty Tana Lawn fabric, which is really, it's perfect for this kind of patchwork. They have some wool stuffing. This is nice lamb's wool stuffing. They have a bit of fancy cotton, pearl cotton, and some buttons from my button jar. So that's just for people who have nothing in their stash, or people who want to make something that is pretty much going to be the same as one of these. So all of the details are there. So that's me. I was filming that yesterday. I've still got these ones here to pack up. So I've got my fabric, and somewhere, oh yeah, there we go, I have all of the envelopes that they go in. So that is what I'm going to be doing straight after I've done this. The other thing that I'm doing this week is I'm sorting out all of the details and beginning to make samples for a different kind of course, which will be launching in January. Now, traditionally in the Studio Club, I have done courses which are around a particular technique. So it might be bundle dyeing or cyanotypes, eco printing, making ink, that kind of thing, where we explore a single technique. And I love doing that, but I wanted instead to do a course, a much more expansive course, that is more to do with the way that I personally work. So what I'm going to be offering is really one of a kind courses that are about creativity and curiosity. So yes, absolutely, we'll be exploring techniques and making things. We'll also be talking about how you learnt to sew and past generations and handing things on, and really kind of like the whole social and historical context of stitching things, making things, be inspired by that and take it on to kind of like new forms. I'll be sharing a lot more about this next month, but at the moment I am making samples. So this is a sample for the first thing that we are going to be making, which is a needle book, but it is based on the idea of samplers and learning to sew kind of thing. So you can see that this interior is all different stitches, and this is going to give us a kind of a really good basis for taking those and maybe being a little bit more experimental with them. You see on the front, this is a very traditional, a kind of 1930s to 1950s kind of design with a transfer print and just sewn with some of my threads. So this is one of the samples that I need to finish. I still need to put the ribbons in and also the fabric for the needle book. And you might be able to see the pin board behind me, because what I use that pin board for is really to plot where I'm going with all of the different kinds of projects that I'm working on. So it's being put together at the moment for this new course, and the course is called The Nature of Creativity Stitched, and it's going to be one of a series. And maybe I could show you the board. This is my pin board, and what I'm doing here is really collecting together a mix of things that are very traditional and things that are more modern techniques, seeing how they can all be blended. So I've got some Sanderson linen, I've got some embroidered samples which are done from 1930s transfers. I have these beautiful, beautiful wax wedding flowers. But then, I've also got bundle dyed things, eco print things. I have some of my dyed threads. I have some pieces that I printed on my press. And then I've got bits of nature like bracken and grass. I have some pressed flowers. Up here, some pieces of cordage, dried flowers, old tassels. You can see how it all begins to kind of come together and look pleasing, but also give me a kind of a style that I'm working for. And down on the table, I have this samples of the kinds of things that you get passed down. You know, contents of sewing boxes, those lovingly embroidered napkins and tablecloths, and in this case, an apron, that often nobody ever wants to throw them out, so they get stored because so much work went into them and passed down. Really, what I'm wanting to do in this course is to take that idea, to take this kind of things that people have inherited and to do something with them, to be to have inspiration from these things. Anyway, as you can see, I am still very much working on this idea, but I know that we're going to be doing embroidery, we're going to be doing natural dyeing, we're going to be doing dyeing with food waste, we're going to be doing some no felt making, and making things as we go along over the 6 months. But it's going to be in some kind of way that you can dip in and out a little bit like my pinboard, you know, lots of different things going on there. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of tour of this kind of creative part of the workshop, because obviously there are other places where I store things and where I do my computer work and where I pack, but in my mind, this corner with my pinboard and my work table and the view out over the valley, this is where the magic happens. And I know that I am incredibly lucky to have this space, to have a studio of my own. The reason for it is that I used to run a much bigger business. I used to run a personalised gift business, and there were 6 of us working here. So built a wooden kind of workshop for that in 2008, and then when that got too small quite quickly, extended it in about 2010. Now the extension bit is where my studio mate Ailey Weir of All That Is Bra works. So that's full of amazing quilts. And I'm back in this bit, but it is such a beautiful, beautiful space. And now I'm going to go and find out where my dogs are. So I'm going to put all of my layers back on because it is very, very frosty out there. And I'm just going to go and check that Teasel hasn't. He's quite quiet, actually. I haven't heard him bark for 5 or so minutes. Just want to go and check that he hasn't somehow managed to squeeze himself and his turtle suit through one of the fences. So, until next week, bye-bye.